Annoying situations can arise in professional life. For example, you show serious discipline to get to work on time and do your job properly. But when you arrive, you see someone moving around in a completely carefree, indifferent manner. On top of that, this person neither gets fired nor receives a warning. This person might be the boss's spoiled son, someone with connections to the boss's inner circle, or perhaps someone you'd never expect. And not only are such people overlooked, they sometimes even get promoted. Now I'm going to teach you how to behave in situations like these, because if you don't know the rules of the game, you'll be eliminated with the red card. First, let me tell you about myself. My name is David. I started my professional life at 18 in a small textile workshop I inherited from my father. Back then, I was working for $8 a day. I had no savings set aside for investment, nothing else to my name. At that time, I had no bank account, not even a phone. Nobody took me seriously. But as of today, I manage a textile factory with 340 people working under me, and I grow my portfolio more every passing day. Today, I'll try to explain in brief how I climbed from zero to the top. I've seen shameless, lazy people who are protected in various companies, and people who do their jobs properly but never receive what they deserve in return. I would never allow such a situation in my own factory. But I want to share a few things with you about what I've observed around me. This problem has 4 different answers. I remember the hardships I went through when I first founded my factory. My capital was limited. My margin for error was limited. It was a period when we were slowly getting things in order. Then an unexpected job offer came. We made a deal with a major German firm for a big contract. The money from this deal would significantly ease my cash flow. I threw myself into the work with enthusiasm. My team was small. I expected the same diligence from everyone, but there was someone on my team named Albert. In his personal life, he was a warm, well-meaning person, but in professional life, he was incredibly passive. While the rest of us were hustling from all sides to do the job properly, he'd arrive late in the mornings, come back late from breaks, and sometimes sit there scrolling through Instagram Reels on his phone doing nothing. His sense of responsibility was no different from a 5-year-old child's. But as a team, we think he's doing that because he's already finished his work. But when we needed something from him, we realized we were wrong. Every task given to him was completed late, and when completed, it was usually incomplete. Even so, we'd clean up after him and cover his shortcomings. And when things went wrong, we were the ones blamed. But I observed this situation from a distance. I watched my well-meaning employees tolerate it up to a point, hoping Albert might improve. Unfortunately, Albert let me down. Since I believed this situation was unfair to my employees who were doing their jobs properly, I fired him. From that day on, I never hired people like Albert again. Who knows? Maybe he improved after being fired. But people like this follow a cunning game plan. This game plan is based on 4 reasons. Now, I'll tell you about the first one. First reason, lazy people know what actually matters. The first difference between these people and those who try to do their jobs well is this. People who do their jobs well get caught up in every detail. They want to fix even the smallest flaw. Every metric, every delivery, every small detail matters to them. Though I wouldn't recommend excessive perfectionism either. That's not a healthy state. You need to stay balanced. As for lazy people, they don't care about anything. They work at a minimum performance level. Sometimes they don't even care about that. They know very well which boxes need to be checked to stay employed and which ones are merely decorative. If I had asked Albert, which responsibilities have real consequences, he would have listed them without hesitation. He knew who tracked what, which deadlines have teeth and which are just suggestions, which manager cares about output and which cares about appearances. While you strive to be the best at your job with your perfectionism, they're calculating how to get the work off their hands in the shortest time possible. And in doing so, they slip through. Most of the time, nobody even notices. Why? Because you're filling the gap. Your perfectionism and that of your colleagues is enough to meet production targets and keep the system running. The quality improving, client relationship managing, detail tracking employees were receiving no concrete short-term reward. and lazy employees were exploiting this gap to cover their own shortcomings. Second reason, lazy people invest energy strategically. These kinds of people are as cunning as foxes. While you're working at your desk, Albert would be wandering around, flattering the boss, trying to have lunch with managers, and building rapport with the accountant, ingratiating himself with senior employees. Based on my experience in the business world, I can say that the performance you show at work is less visible compared to the games these sneaky people play, which makes getting promoted naturally more difficult. If you can manage visibility and perception, you'll be engraved in people's minds, and you won't easily be forgotten. Lazy people sense this instinctively. They don't exhaust themselves on work that won't serve their interests. Instead, they focus on being liked and perceived as valuable. When I observed the moments Albert delivered work, everything he did was calculated. He was constantly scheming to get in the good graces of the boss and managers. Around managers, he'd present himself as someone sharing work-focused thoughts. Around lower-level employees, he'd turn into the complete opposite, an irresponsible, selfish person. Someone else completes the bulk of the work, stays late, builds the backbone of the project. Then the lazy, or rather the smart, employee shows up at the last minute, like a 90-minute goal, attaches his name to the success as if he contributed. The other employees don't even notice because of the intensity of the workload, and so the process ends. I witnessed this firsthand. We had made an export deal with the German firm, and I assigned 2 of my employees to close the deal. I observed both of them from a distance during this time. One was hustling with everything he had. The other was acting irresponsibly. Of course, I didn't let on what I'd seen. Both of my employees and I entered the meeting together, and I saw that the irresponsible one was more active compared to the other. At that moment, I learned this painful truth. Doing your job well is very important, but it's not enough. Being visible, being able to market yourself, these are at least as important as delivering good work. Third reason, lazy people have an accountability shield. They claim the spoils of victories and deflect the punishments of losses. The boss knows very well which task to assign to which employee and what to prefer where. That's why he calls on you in important situations. He knows dealing with Albert is a waste of time. This has a positive side as much as a negative one. Because you're reliable, a heavier workload is loaded onto your shoulders. Albert barely carries anything. The distance he has to run is very short. You're being evaluated on a different scale from another employee working right next to you. There's another mousetrap that people like Albert set here. We call it passive delegation. When Albert fails to fulfill his role in a group project, 2 options remain. Either someone in the group does his work and the project gets completed, or the group members don't take over his work and the project gets canceled. In most cases, people choose the first option, and Albert knows this, which is why he acts irresponsibly. If the project succeeds, he takes credit. If it fails, he slips away. Among employees, this has sometimes been called delegation. People see such individuals as leaders who direct the team. These kinds of ironic situations pave the way for people like this to get promoted. Fourth reason, lazy people are not a problem for the people who could fire them. Let's assume you're the boss. Albert wasn't creating conflict for employees because he wasn't doing anything that would trigger conflict. He wasn't threatening anyone's position because he had no ambition. Instead of working harder, he was calculating how to escape work. He wasn't making conspicuous mistakes because he wasn't in the spotlight. You might think this is unfair. You might complain about the imbalance of workload, but such situations generally go unresolved. Work still continues because employees who care about their work cover up the flaws of people like Albert. With things that way, people like Albert neither catch the boss's eye nor face the risk of losing their job. The system keeps running as it always has. Firing Albert means a period of disruption because once he's let go, a new employee is needed, and that's a time-consuming process. So keeping Albert employed is the path of least resistance, and naturally, bosses tend to prefer this approach. There's a secret most people don't know. Many of the people in important positions got there for exactly these kinds of reasons. They built networks, marketed themselves, managed perceptions, and in doing so, people like Albert became diamonds in their eyes. This frustrates a lot of people, but this is the loophole in the system. We can't get anywhere by lamenting it. We have to keep moving forward. So, what will you do now? Want me to tell you something that'll surprise you? The irresponsible behavior of people like Albert is not the problem of the boss or the managers. It's the problem of well-meaning employees like you. You're covering their flaws. You're rushing to their aid. You're wearing yourself out. And they're using that gap to their own advantage. On top of that, because this exploitation is invisible, it goes unnoticed. Of course, knowing how the game works and understanding its rules is also very important. I learned this the hard way after long years in professional life. The man who revises the production plan alone at midnight goes unappreciated. The man who says good morning to the boss when he walks into the office is the one who shines. You don't have to come running to everything. You need to think about yourself a little. You don't have to stay silent while others steal your light. You should stop being the safety net that covers the flaws of shameless people. Life is not a fairy tale. Sometimes not doing what you're supposed to do is what you need to do. You must learn the rules of the game. You've now seen what kind of terrain lies ahead. From this point on, you can no longer pretend you didn't see it.